I'd like to introduce our next speaker now. Our next speaker is Mr. Erik Nissen Johansen. Erik is the founder and creative director of Style Trampoline in Gothenburg, Sweden, an award-winning multidisciplinary Swedish concept and design agency specializing in the hospitality industry. Under the leadership of Johansen, Style's architects, art directors, designers, marketers, and brand experts use storytelling to build projects where the brand, the business opportunity, and the interiors are perfectly aligned, creating inspiring environments and memorable experiences for their clients. For more than 20 years, Style has won numerous awards, including 2 European Hotel Design Awards, the Swedish Design Prize, as well as the World Hotel Award. Without further ado, I would like to give a big welcome to our next speaker, Erik.
I'm extremely excited to be here in Hong Kong. It's my first time in Hong Kong. It has been a dream for many years. And I knew that someday in my life I would like to go to Hong Kong. And I'm here in front of you, and all of you came. I thought after Thomas, everybody should leave, but you're still here. Normally when I talk, it's a lot of people in the beginning, and at the end is everybody left. But we'll see today. Maybe you are polite, more polite. I also want to thank, I think the event has been extremely well managed. And I don't want to mention any names, but yes, I want to mention Jeff. Is Jeff here, my ambassador? I was appointed a personal ambassador. How is that? A big hand for Jeff. It's been fantastic, helping me out. As I said, extremely well organized. The microphone works, and hopefully the clicker. I am not an architect. I'm not even a Swede. I had to wait with that information until now, but otherwise they wouldn't let me in. I'm from Norway. But I live in Sweden, and my company is in Sweden. And I'm also a proud dyslexic. I forgot some persons to thank, and I think they are always forgotten. And this, I think, is the translators up there. And they're always doing, I don't know how they do it, because I have really problems with writing and translating quickly. And if I do like this, we are the best translators in the world. And then they are meaning it themselves when they are translating it to you. A big hand for them. I said I was a dyslexic. I read very bad, so half of my time in school I was really, really bad, but everything where I didn't have to read and calculate, I was really good. So I really quickly understood that I needed to go towards the more artistical side of myself. So I chose to study art in Florence, in Italy, because that's where at least the European modern world started during the Renaissance. So I thought it was a good idea to start there. And today, I'm working with this company. It's probably misspelled. Bear with me. And we are called Style Trampoline. And my topic on my talk is multisensorial storytelling. It's a very difficult word. I hardly understand it myself. But we are storytellers, and I think, for example, it's a lot of marketing in the world. If you know Philip Kotler's book on marketing, it's 989 pages thick. And I honestly believe it's 978 pages too long. Because all our society is built upon the means of communication between people. Teaching information to your children through stories, through the format of stories. Okay? And that's why we always start with a script. to understand and try to determine how to emotionally give people arguments, so they should really love the hotel or the restaurants we did. And we are about 50 people in Gothenburg. In Sweden, Gothenburg is the second largest city compared to China. It's a very small city, not even a city. I think it's 500,000 people. But we built a Chinese car there called Volvo. I'm the creative director, and we have artists and interior designers. We got industrial designers. We got interior architects, art directors, and designers, copywriters and concept developers, web development, furnishing and sourcing of antiques and stuff to fill the places with, PR and sales, and then we got the more dry and boring studio manager, project managing, and that's not my department. That's why I did a division in between. And we are in love with hospitality, the hotel and restaurant industry. That's the other special thing with us, I think. We only do hotel and restaurant development. And we do it with all these fantastic colleagues and people, and they are extremely passionate about hotels and restaurants. They are these annoying people who go on vacation with their families and they want to see at least 9, 10 hotels in a city, and they want to go to different restaurants just to see how they work. And but at least in our office, we can discuss it as much as we want. So our goal and mission in life is to create future hospitality. It's really simple, and I've noticed. It's a good sentence, huh? Can you translate that? It's I think the general business hotels, international business hotels, discovered a truth some years ago due to the invention of internet. And the invention of internet made everybody to book their own hotels very easy. And then if you were very interested in latex, for example, you could easily find the latex hotels in the world. Or if you were very interested in dogs, if there were any hotels about dogs, you could find them very quickly. And before that, all the hotels had one common design. We had, during the 70s, Holiday Inn was the world's largest hotel chain in the world, with the slogan, "Your best surprise is no surprise." And their logo were green, and they designed all the rooms green, okay? And now they realize suddenly that it's not, Hilton is not the reason why you go to Paris. It's Paris that is the reason why you go to Paris. And I think you all agree to me if you have been there. So if you can make sense of place when you design a hotel, the business will be so much better. If you could tell the story of Paris when you arrive in your Paris hotel in some way or another, you will be able to charge much more for your hotel. My voice is already run out, but I got water here. Another example of a fine service. You got that? And here's your question. Darling, despite my really heavy problem of writing, I'm an author of a book. Author of a book. I did it together with a professor at the business university in Gothenburg, and I always like saying that, But she did the writing, and I was on the cover of the book. It's called Storytelling as a Marketing Tool for the Experience Economy. And it's about our case studies and how we work. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that today. It's a screaming monkey, by the way, which are in all the rainforests in all the world. Different species, but they have a behavior a little bit like birds. When they live in the canopies of the trees, and when they need to eat, they go down on the ground and find good stuff to eat. And then maybe a lion or something, dangerous animals come to eat them, and And the first who discovers the lion, he starts to scream, or she starts to scream. And sometimes the little bit more frightened species, they scream in vain, or they scream if there wasn't any bad animal. And they have a system in their flocks that if you deliver the right stories, if you deliver relevant information, if you scream and warn your friends when the real lion comes, you will end up as a boss in the flock. If you deliver the wrong information, non-relevant stories, they will throw you out eventually. So I think that 100,000 years before the old Greeks wrote down the fundamental principle of drama and storytelling, I think we knew it in our DNA. As I said, Philip Kotler is a big detour for marketing. I think it's more smarter to go right on our means of communications. And this is a model that we made because we were always asking ourselves, what is it that you are actually selling when you're dealing with experience, hotel experience or restaurant experience? And most of the marketing literature is based on products. For example, selling shampoo or condoms, or just testing them a little bit in the translating booth. Did I really say it? But it's more complicated with experiences. And the 4 Ps, if you have read your Kotler, it doesn't really work when it comes to experience. So we realized after some years working with this that what you are selling when you're consuming a restaurant or producing a restaurant is the sum of all your impressions when you pay the bill and leave. The sum of all your impressions, what you have seen, what you tasted, what you hear, the interaction with other guests, everything. And that's why what I say that we are doing. We are trying to tune the radiation of all those impressions. That's what our designers and architects are trying to do. And this model is just to simplify things. And it means that the smile on the client's lip needs to be larger than the hole in his wallet. If so, the business will go up. So if you turn the V the other way around, the business will go down. So that's how simple and complicated it is. Yeah. And we, as being niched, we have done, I think, more than 250 hotel projects and more than 500 restaurant projects, been involved in, and nothing else. These are the few of our concepts that we have conceived together with our clients. And I'm going to give you 3 examples. Because I think the first initial part of my talk is really difficult to understand for me, even for me. But through the case studies, it will be much clearer for all of you, hopefully. The first one is a restaurant project that we were assigned by Radisson, Radisson Blu, the hotel company. And they were building a new restaurant or they were building a new hotel in Gothenburg, our city, on the wrong side of the river that was totally dead. So the city was on one side of the river and the restaurant were on another side of the river. And in the brief, they said that we want a restaurant that the citizen of Gothenburg takes the boat over the river to consume it. And we thought it was really difficult because it was very dead. And the hotel was built next to the science park. Okay? And the science park was an initiative from the municipality when they it was a big wharf industry. They were making ships in Gothenburg, and during the 70s it went bankrupt. So they took all the housing, all the buildings, and even built new buildings, and tried to create a science park. So the technical department of Volvo is there, and Ericsson and the technical university is there. But still, it's run by the municipality. So if you go into the website, it's really, really boring website. So we went to the website, and we thought it was very uninspiring. And then we went there and knocked on the doors of the different companies. And that was extremely inspiring. We had people who were trying to invent new things to make our world better. And I thought if we could use that story, if we could get that feeling, that inspiredness, because at the same time there was a American survey, large survey, who was planning and counting the most creative countries in the world, and Sweden was topping it. And I'm really sure that those square meters next to this hotel was the most creative square meters in Sweden. And that will mean that it's the most creative square meters in the world. And I was really certain and convinced of that when I met all these people that was working with. You mentioned graphene before, Thomas, maybe, first one. You know, the new super material. The European Union have decided to put all the development of graphene in just next to this hotel, through Chalmers University, the technical university. So it's fantastic innovations going on there. So first of all, we needed a name to kind of pinpoint the meeting point between madness and geniality. So we borrowed one from a film, that, as you probably have seen, the Cuckoo's Nest, and we thought that was actually a better name of the science park than Lindholmen Science Park. And then we felt that we really need to tell this story through these people that we met, the extremely excitement that we felt. If we could get that through, it would become a really interesting place. So we designed the interiors apart from all the decorations. So we asked all the companies to donate prototypes of their inventions, and they were really happy to do it. So the first donation was from the Gothenburg Film Studios, who had made a robot of surplus light equipment that they are greeting the people now. It has a big machine gun, but this picture was taken when they had their opening, and the head chef, the CEO of Radisson came from Brussels flying up, so they took away the machine gun and put it up the day after. That's how they are. So you see, all the decorations are extremely fantastic stuff, interesting things. And we were inspired a lot by different kind of university environments, and it's a very messy interior. And it's supposed to do that. You have the big wall of conspiracies, you know, because all geniuses are very, very preoccupied about conspiracies. And the front of the bar is the scribbles of Einstein when he nailed the relativity theory. And down to the design of the plates, we asked one of the engineers at the science park to design, help us to do a technical drawing of how to construct the plates, how to make it durable in the washing machine. And that became the kind of decoration of the meta decoration of the plate. They are selling it. And the restaurant became an extreme success because the people from the science park, all the inventors, they really like to be there. They feel it's their place, and they have informal meetings. So when a traditional business guest of Radisson are checking in, they really feel that they are checking into the nerd's habitat, where all the inventors are. And they feel a sense of place. And the people from Gothenburg, they feel really proud that they have such creative square meters in their own city. So they go there and they consume the restaurant. They drink their coffee and eat their food. So it's actually turning over 3 times more money than they budgeted from the beginning. So that's one way of telling a story through the nerds in the science park. And then another more historic project that we recently did, Stora Hotellet in Umeå. And I was nearly as happy as I am today being here in Hong Kong with you 2 weeks ago when we won the best new boutique hotel in the world with this project in London. I was actually jumping a little bit, but I don't want to do it now because my microphone might jump off. by the World Boutique Hotel Awards. And this project is in a small city, even smaller than Gothenburg. I don't think you even call it a city in China. It's 100,000 people in the Bothnia Bay, north of Sweden. And the city is actually this year the European capital of culture. So it was a good timing, and it's a part of a larger project. You see the building in behind of the old building there. It's the new culture house. We also designed a hotel inside the new building, which is rising above the new library. A building done by white architects and Snøhetta architects from Oslo. But today I'm going to talk about the old nice building here, 150 years old. And the owner really wanted this historical hotel to become the grand old lady of hotels in the city. The finest hotel in a kind of a classical but new way. And we went there to try to understand what it used to be. And this was built as the building for the shipping industry. And a person from Umeå would say, what shipping? We don't have any shipping industry here. It was finished 3 years before the railroad came to the city. And when the railroad came, they didn't need any ships anymore. But at the year they built it, it was more than 2,000 ships leaving Umeå with timber and other natural resources from northern Sweden to export to the whole world. And in our research, we found fantastic stories about it was built as a hotel from the beginning, so it's the oldest hotel in the city. And they had very small rooms with for the sailors, simple rooms. You had to sleep 6 people in the same room. When their ships were loaded and unloaded, that's where they slept. And all the shipping companies had their offices there, and they had their banquet halls. When they had celebrities and important clients, they held their parties there next to and there was a small restaurant for the sailors, and I guess they were drinking a lot there. So this kind of gave images to our head, and we came up with, this is an old picture from the year it was built. And it gave us an idea. If it took away when the Swedish king Oscar II, when he came to Umeå, the reception were held in the shipyard company's banquet halls. And that was just next to, it was one wall in between the restaurant for the sailors where they were drinking. So we thought our concept that nourished the ideas here and the stories was that we took away the wall, and they started to party together, the king and the very drunk sailors. So we wanted to do this a little bit odd and alternative reality world. This is the reception when you enter, and all the receptionists have to have a big beard. If not, you're not allowed to work there. That was easy today. It's kind of in fashion in Sweden, at least, with big beards. And this beautiful old staircase is the only original piece of the original interiors. And it goes nearly all the way up, apart from up to the attic. This is one of the conference rooms. It's all dedicated to different chapters of the history of the hotel. The tiles, we designed all the wallpapers and all the patterns in the. And the restaurant is themed with all the myths of the seas before television and newspapers existed. It was only oral tellings from the sailors about their fares on the 7 seas. And very Scandinavian design, as you can see. They didn't get that. We have the butcher scheme of the sea monster on the wall in the restaurant. And we did the porcelain from parts of the logo and the graphic design, and we did it like a new version of the China that the ships went to China to buy and sold for very expensive money a long time ago. We got three-dimensional laminates on the doors. So there are octopuses that are following you with their arms when you pass in the corridors. These are one of the bigger rooms, the suite. And you have one of the normal rooms. And this is the staircase made out of driftwood. It smells good of tar. And when you go up to the attic, you have all the small sailor rooms where you sleep in the canvas beds. And they look like this, and you have to sleep 6 people together, and it's really cheap. So you can even stay very cheap in this hotel. These are the different categories of rooms. It's like categories of tattoos when you go to your tattoo artist. And the logo is designed from the banistery of the old staircase. So that's another way of telling the story of the building and making it intriguing for the people that, like I said, multisensorial storytelling. That the chair is telling the story, the staff is telling the same story, and the scent of the space is telling the same story. And my last case, and I got 8 minutes on me, I think. Do I get anything extra because of the technical? No. It would be fair, but not fair, because you have to go and do other stuff. A new old Russian star. We got a fantastic assignment, I think. It was the Baltic, the Baltic countries. The 3 Baltic countries, they had their largest hotel owner called Reval Hotels. They noticed that the Baltic countries, they were kind of full of the hotel products. They didn't need to add more rooms. But on the Russian market, it was highly interesting for them. It was a need to triple the number of rooms in the big cities within the next 7 years. So they have been looking for many years to find a location to create a hotel in St. Petersburg, which is really, really close to the Baltic countries. When you pass the border, it's like 1.5 hour driving. So that was the natural step for them to go. And after a while, fighting with the big dragons of the hotel industry, they finally got a project. An old 2 actually housing blocks with apartments that they got the alliance to be able to transform into a hotel. And they did a research with their brand, Reval Hotels, in the market, and they realized that it was totally unknown. And they also realized another thing. If they put money into making it famous, it would probably not be loved. There are some neighboring issue between the 3 Baltic countries that separated a little violently from Russia. So there are no incentives for the Russians to love something that are coming from the Baltic countries. So they asked us if we could add additional emotional reasons for the Russian people of St. Petersburg to love this hotel. Okay. So we got the assignment. It's called today Radisson Blu, Sonia, St. Petersburg. It's a mess in the hotel industry because they are renting it's a franchisee, so they are only renting the name Radisson to be a part of their booking system. So what we did, we went to St. Petersburg to do research. We stayed in all the hotels. And after two weeks, we noticed 2 things, 2 very important issues in our project here. Number one was that there were no Russian hotels in the official cultural capital of Russia, St. Petersburg. They either looked like Sheraton or Hilton or really tried to look like an American chain hotel. That, I think, made a lot of sense when the Iron Curtain fell 20 years ago. Business-wise, it probably made a lot of sense. And the other thing we learned was even more important, I think, and that was that is there any Russian people here? my impressions of Russians, it was a little bit like in the James Bond movies. They were villains and they were driving with their machine guns in their big cars with techno music always on. And I was wrong. That was totally wrong. All the people of St. Petersburg have one thing in common, and that is that they are extremely proud of being the #1 deliverer of fine culture to the world the last 350 years. Peter the Great, he didn't found a city. He wanted to outrival Paris as the cultural capital of the world. That was the plan with the city. And they are extremely proud that they gave us Dostoevsky and the Mariinsky Theater and the Swan Lake, and that's what they go on about. Even if you're poor, rich, whatever, communist, non-communist, that's what they are extremely proud of, and that's the story they want to tell to the world. So we thought if we could find a manuscript or a story to kind of emotionally build this hotel from, that intrigues the 5 million people living there, could be a winner. We had a potential of opening a hotel from scratch with 5 million likes from the beginning. So we had a deadline, and it was hard to come up with something. And then about 3 minutes before our presentation, I was lying, I was just, 3 weeks before our presentation, we read an article in Newsweek, the American newspaper, and they interviewed the most famous chef in the city, a big Russian man. And the last question from the American journalist was, what is the best guidebook to St. Petersburg? And he probably thought, is he going to say Time Out or Berlitz or Lonely Planet? But the Russian chef, he answered in an extremely Russian way. He said, read Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. It's the most accurate portrait ever written of this city. And it's a very Russian manner. I didn't really understand it from the beginning, but as more I dug into it, I really got it. And it's a story that is 150 years old, but still it's really, really accurate emotionally. It's an emotional portrait of the city. So we thought if we could lure or trick our customers to use their 15 million euro budget to build on this story of a young student chopping the head off an old woman with his axe, it could be a good thing. And we told them that, we didn't say that, we said that, have you seen Quentin Tarantino's films? They wouldn't look like they do if Dostoevsky didn't write this novel 150 years ago. Quentin Tarantino uses the drama, the way he built up the story, exactly the same in all his movies. Taxi Driver, the movie with, what's his name? Robert De Niro. It's the same story, different time, different name of the characters. We found Edvard Munch, the great Norwegian artist. He said in half his career, he said in an interview that I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to paint the inner emotion of human beings. The only person that have made it so far is Dostoevsky through Crime and Punishment. And after going on like this for 4 hours, they swallowed hard and said, yes, let's do it. So we were happy. We were able to translate the fantastic novel of Dostoevsky into a hotel. So this is what we did. We created a contemporary and personal hotel inspired by Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. The limitless depths of the Russian soul and its metamorphosis. It sounds better and more intriguing than Sheraton, doesn't it? This is the pre-opening website, and it's not animated here, but the book was transformed into a hotel, so now you can stay in the novel and read the hotel. And of course, it's a very literal hotel. You enter in a big bookshelf we found actually more than 100 different languages of the novel translated in used paperbacks, which is a proof that it's a great novel. It's ranked as one of the maybe 20 most important novels ever written. And you noticed maybe it's called Sonia. And Sonia is Raskolnikov, the main character's biggest love in his life and the person that saves him. And she's there as a Matryoshka doll, holding up the whole reception desk. The restaurant called Metamorphosis, and we really wanted to make a lot of layers and make the design look like a Russian hotel in a modern way. This is inspired from the scarf of Sonia. This is her the uniforms. This is the corridors, which is the walk that Raskolnikov went with the axe when he was going to kill the woman. the pawn breaker. We went there with a museum guide and took pictures and made a wallpaper from that. And that sequence in the book is written in the carpet. And the room 614 has the 14th sentence in the 6th chapter in Russian and English. And very Russian design. And the whole point with this is that they opened very quietly because one of the buildings was not finished, so they didn't want to do a marketing thing before all the rooms were finished. And 2 weeks after opening quietly, he got a telephone call from the mayor of the city, Miss Ivana Machenko. She had been voted the most powerful woman in Russia 10 years in a row. He got her job from Mr. Putin 10 years ago. And she said to the very, very scared receptionist that took the call that we are opening, we are coming to open your hotel tomorrow. And she said, it's a misunderstanding, we are not opening the hotel. And she said, yes, you are, and I'm coming with the journalists 12 o'clock. So she came with 60 journalists, flew in from Moscow, and they, and she also, I learned the day after that this was the first hotel, after 10 years in office, it was the first hotel she opened. And she heard it from a friend, that there was a hotel that was talking about Dostoevsky's great novel. And she said to her friend that this is the story we need to tell to the world. We're not villains in James Bond movies, we are deliverers of fine culture. She also brought another man, the one to the right here, and he's a tram driver in the city. He's called Dmitry Dostoevsky, and his great-great-great-grandfather was the big author. And he's working today as an ambassador. They pay him, he got a free bar and free food, I think that's enough for him. And he's guiding the guests around in different, the characters' footsteps in the city. Okay? And we got actually very good friends, me and him. And we came up, he's traveling a little bit. He's been to the French Riviera many times. And we came up with a business idea together, him and me. Because we've seen that, when you're driving a water scooter, if you can translate that, a water scooter in the French Riviera, you're often a very tan, sexy Italian man with no shirt on. But people like me, a little bit more intellectual, white, also have a need to repair your water scooter. So we came up with this business idea together to make this repair shop for water scooters. And of course, as also you had translated it, got that this was a joke. Because after my evil copywriter, after this project was finished, he did a count of all my emails, all the different ways I was spelling Dostoevsky. And it was 48 different ways. None of them were right. And without me in the office, they did a voting, and this was the one who won. I didn't even have a say in it. So after that, I've been always, wearing a beard, trying to kind of being a little bit like Dmitry, which I will never be, of course. And is it spelled right? That was it. That was my last slide. Sorry about that. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for not leaving.
Thank you very much. Wow, what a great storyteller here.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do we have any question from the floor?
Or do you need to go to the bathroom, maybe? Or?
Yes.
Well, I actually
Yes.
have the pleasure of interviewing Erik afterwards, so this is one of my questions. How does your Scandinavian root or background, because I'm Scandinavian too, how does that affect your hospitality design thinking? Because this is not typically Scandinavian design, it's storytelling. So how do you use your Scandinavian background for that?
I think it depends how you define Scandinavian design, because I'm Scandinavian, I'm a designer, so it's Scandinavian design. It doesn't look like Thomas' work, but I think, somehow I have a benefit not being Swedish, working in Sweden, because you see things a little bit more from above, maybe. And I think I think it would be difficult for a Russian native architect from St. Petersburg to attack this story and use it. I mean, it would feel too tacky, maybe. But I feel very Scandinavian, so that's my answer to your question.
Yes. Any other question?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. I started, and have you read it? It's extremely boring in the beginning, but it gets to you. I got actually the on CDs, you know, the sound book, and even then it was boring in the beginning. But then it starts to get intriguing. Then I saw that there are 2 films, or 1 BBC series and 1 movie that has been made of the story, and I've seen them. That's easy for me, and then you realize that how many different people that have used the same narrative that Dostoevsky came up with. It's the first crime novel written from inside of the criminal's head, and he's actually he's the murderer, but he's the big hero at the same time. He's a huge hero in Russia. So I have read it, and I asked my evil copywriter to write the story in half a page, in 1 sentence and 1 word. And I think he used 2 weeks to do the 1 word, and that was Metamorphose, which is the name of the restaurant, which gave the name to the restaurant.
Any other question? I've got one for you.
Oh,
yes. You know what? When I follow your lecture, when I look at your 3 projects, fantastic projects, I understand that being interior designer, so we always like to tell a lot of message, or like what you just called storytelling kind of, you know, approach on your projects. The hotel is a very amazing kind of project nature, because we have this kind of layers and different, you know, functions in the space that we create. And it's just like a book, or it's like a drama, it's like a movie that we have chapters, right? So in your philosophy, that I see a lot of projects as like a mini museum they've created, that you can respect a lot of local history, the objects that you collected, and the textures, you know, the images that you used. I think people will have kind of bound by, maybe as a designer, we set up the plot for everyone to understand. Do we allow some more association space, or association kind of opportunity for them to interpret by themselves? Do we allow some sort of more you know, some more mental space, so to speak, for them?
I think it's a great question, and I think you get it all wrong because you get it from me. You know, it's like having a director listening to when he made a movie. And that's not the point. You're supposed to consume the movie from a cinema theater. I think, you know, this becomes one example. I talked to, after 2 years of running of the Sonia Hotel, I talked to one of the salespeople there, and she said to me, I've been working on 10 different hotels in St. Petersburg before, and this is by far the easiest hotel to sell, because I got something to say. Even the most boring, important client, they listen when I talk to them, because they you know, a lot of question comes up. So I don't think it's many of the things I told you, you know, about where the inspiration came from, the different details. I don't think people realize it. But I think if you are, a lot of sales of hotels are done by showing around, you know, showing important clients around in the hotel. And I think if you're a good salesperson, you can see that he's curious about the rug, maybe. He's curious about that detail. Then you can add the story onto it, right, and he will never forget it. But and on the other hand, you really need to, there are 2 sets of boxes to tick in. You know, the one with the narrative and the script of Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. But the other one is to make a comfortable and well-functioning hotel. And you can't never do one without the other. So I really think that all our projects can easily be consumed without, you can go in, you can sleep, or you can eat, and then you can go out without getting a clue of the story at all. But then again, I think that you have a hotel in St. Petersburg with a population that are really proud of the product, and they recommend it, and they want, and of course, the city has 74% tourism as opposed to business travel. It's the highest percentage of tourism in Europe, of any city. And they are going there to consume the culture. And of course, that's a great argument for the sales force of hotels, the travel agents, to kind of include that into the experience when you're going to experience. It's like I said, you're not going to Paris for Hilton is going to Paris for Paris. Right. Or Paris Hilton, which is there, maybe.
Experience, I think it's a very good term to end this session. Yes, thank you very much, Erik, so for your very insightful...
A big hand for all of you. Thank you.
Today. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, everyone, to join this year's Space and Design session. I hope, personally speaking, I hope you all have an enjoyable time. And the experience that we have, from architecture to interior to product design, we're gonna do something really, really more interesting, fun job more, right? So thank you very much.
Take your hand on that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.